Hello and welcome. This week we're looking into the desirable side of motoring to bring you the top 10 coupes.
Otherwise known as saloons in drag.
Not all of them are based on saloons now, Dave.
That's right. Some are based on hatchbacks as well.
A coupe is a style statement. It has sleek lines and a sporting edge, definitely giving the owner the kind of feel-good factor of a sports car with a little more practicality.
And the recipe is simple for the manufacturers. Take an existing saloon or hatchback floor pan, squeeze the occupants into a smaller space, take away a little headroom for good measure, and clothe it all over in a body ever so slightly better looking than the box it was based on. Finally, hike the price up and the punters will climb over themselves to buy one.
Oh, and they must be a two-door shape, preferably with frameless windows.
At number 10 we have possibly the most attractive member of the Renault Megane range, the Megane Coupe.
It does look awfully similar to the Megane hatch though, which hurts the style score, but on the other hand it offers a cheap route to owning a coupe.
The coupe has come very much into vogue in recent years, and I'm not talking about dedicated supercars here. I'm talking about taking a very mundane, ordinary car, like, say, the Fiesta, and turning it into a coupe, like, say, the Puma. Well, Renault, not wanting to be missed out, did the same thing with the Megane, turned the hatch into the coupe, and this is the newly facelifted Megane Coupe.
Let's face it though, compared to the rest of our top 10, it's about as stylish as a pair of green wellies. Well, some of you out there may well like green wellies, but you wouldn't wear them to a party.
And number 9 should have it all. Love it or loathe it looks, a sporting chassis and as close to the perfect driving position as you can get. The Toyota Celica has what it takes to draw punters into the showroom.
So why did they have to stuff it all up with inconsistent detailing and interior plastics even Hyundai would be embarrassed by?
So it's disappointingly numb at the steering wheel for a car that's supposed to be sporting. The gearbox as well is a little bit ropey, not particularly accurate and a bit graunchy. There is plenty of low-down power from that turboed engine and you'll accommodate 4 adults in comfort, all of which means there's plenty of opportunity for this car.
Under the bonnet lies a 1.8-litre engine packing variable valve timing, and impressive performance is further enhanced by a relatively light body.
Sit inside and the driving position is without doubt the best in our top 10 today. The steering wheels and pedals are perfectly positioned. The daring styling from outside also makes it inside, but it is let down terribly by the awful plastics used. In short, this is the best Celica for a very long time, yet it could have been so much better if the details hadn't let it down.
Number 8 is a personal favourite of mine, the Ford Puma. To look at it, it's hard to believe that this little cracker is based on nothing more glamorous than the Ford Fiesta.
Yet it is, and unfortunately is regretfully underestimated by the real car enthusiasts because of its popularity with the hairdressing fraternity.
Designed completely by computer, the Puma must be one of the most successful applications of Ford's new age design philosophy.
That's where Ford starts off with a blobby shape and lets Edward Scissorhands loose to create cuts and folds that bear little relationship to each other, all in the name of looking different from the herd.
This is a great car because of its handling. Now, the Puma was always a superb car to drive, but the revisions to the racing Puma have made it a handling dream. Inside the Puma, you sit in a cosy little cockpit which adds to the charm of the car. Where there is a welcome similarity to the Fiesta, though, is in the ease of the driving. While the racing Puma is every boy racer's dream, caning it around a very smooth track like this, On a road like this, it's a bit of a pain, literally. You see, the suspension is so hard that on dodgy roads you feel every single lump and bump, or rather your back does anyway. Oh yes, it makes you realise what a rather shocking state our roads are actually in. Although probably the best all-rounder in its class, it languishes this far down purely because the cars above are perceived to be a little bit more glamorous.
Number 7 is still enjoying the kind of attention you only get when you're the new kid on the block. The Vauxhall Astra Coupe still has to build its reputation in the marketplace.
Of course, there are still those who mourn the passing of the Celica, which had sleek lines hiding a mundane cavalier floor pan. Dynamically, that car was flawed, and Vauxhall knew they couldn't afford to make that mistake again.
This time, though, they were off to a better start. The Astra, which this coupe is based upon, had a little chassis tweaking from Lotus.
It must have been very tempting for the designers just to take the ordinary Astra Sport chassis and bung a nice slopey coupe body on it. But bless them, they didn't. They worked a bit harder than that. So they've modified the suspension quite a lot. We've got firmer springs and increased damper rates, whatever that is. We've also got a lot lower car, so what you get is a much more coupe-like ride and drive.
The power-hungry amongst you will be pleased to learn that a turbocharged engine has entered the options list, taking this little rocket to 150 miles an hour.
Unfortunately, even though tweaked by Lotus, the chassis really isn't ideal for this level of performance. The suspension seems a little soft for A-road fun.
In character, this is a miniature GT, a cross-country tourer with a stylish exterior. Inside, though, you're in an Astra just like any in the range, barring a few tweaks from the designers.
The Astra Coupe gets marked up for nice lines, engines, and being the newest shape new coupe you could buy with your new checkbook.
Dynamically, the Puma leaves it for dead, so we predict that their relative positions in the top 10 could reverse once our panel of experts have seen a few more Astra Coupes on the road.
Our number 6 has a healthy dose of both desirability and dynamics. For the Peugeot 406 Coupe, the French firm turned to Pininfarina for the looks. They of the Ferrari shaping legend, and boy, did they come up with the goods.
Cleverly, you can still see the elements of the 406 saloon in the shape, especially in the head and tail lights. Yet from any angle, this really is a thing of beauty. Arguably the best looking coupe you can buy.
This interior may well boast all the stylistic passion of a Formica worktop, but it's very, very good at making you comfortable over a long journey, turning the 406 Coupe into very much a long-legged cruiser.
It's when you sit inside that you come down to earth with a bump. There's little wrong with the fascia in the 406 saloon until you put it into a machine which promises so much more from the outside.
It is comfortable though, and there's a chrome gear lever and instrument bezels to raise the looks just a little.
So far as engines are concerned, you get the choice of a 2-litre 4-cylinder or a 3-litre 6-cylinder lump. Journalists debate long and hard over which suits the car best.
On one hand, the 4-cylinder engine is quite a bit lighter. This model may not be so fast, but the handling has a finer balance. The very light steering managed to communicate in a way owners of Porsche 911s used to rave about. On a twisty country road, this would be the choice.
The V6 has a delicious growl which fits the promise of something special that you'd expect from the shape. It also makes a better job of pulling the weight around. Performance is adequate in the 2-litre. In this, it's wonderful. You don't suddenly lose all the fine chassis dynamics of the smaller version, just a little edge.
Number 5 is the delicious C70.
Hold on, I may not know everything about cars,
You can say that again.
but Volvo make great big hearse-like estates, don't they?
Welcome to the modern Volvo, Dave. This coupe is the result of a cooperative venture by Volvo and TWR, who raced 850 saloons in the British Touring Car Championships.
It doesn't look bad.
It doesn't go bad either. With the turbocharged engine from the T5 saloon, this machine has the pace to match its looks, and a front-wheel drive platform which only just manages to cope with the prodigious power.
There's three versions of Volvo's 5-cylinder engine on offer in the coupe. First comes the naturally aspirated 170 brake horsepower unit, then there's the low pressure turbo version which churns out 193 brake horsepower, and if you're a real petrol head you can go for the full-blooded 240 brake horsepower version which gives you sub 7 second 0 to 60 performance. This is the 170 brake horsepower version in what they call the touring chassis. Performance perfectly adequate, I mean 0 to 60 in around 9 seconds. Handling, well, it's smooth and quiet and relaxed, as you'd expect for a car of this size and weight.
I suppose being a Volvo, safety is quite high on the agenda, although I can't imagine anyone buying a coupe on that.
True and true again. But the C70 has so many virtues, it's easy to forget that it's based on the V70.
Join us in part 2 for the top 4 coupes, and one of them is a Brit.
Welcome back to the top 10 coupes. We're now at the heady heights of the top 4, and it's time for a little Bavarian magic.
Looking back at the classic cars from glorious times past, little stirs the imagination more than a perfectly balanced straight-six engine driving the rear wheels.
It's this recipe that makes the 3 Series Coupe from BMW so special.
Now, if BMW were a little more honest, they'd admit that the coupe is just a 3-door saloon. Give it the coupe badge and it takes on a more glamorous image.
This wheel is enormous. It's like driving a tractor. It could do with something a little bit smaller just to make it feel like it's a little more eager to turn in.
The engines range from competent 4-cylinder units to the silky straight 6s, and it's the latter which are legendary. The 320, 323 and 330 coupes are all torquey engines, which propel the Beamer beautifully.
The chassis complements the engine's silky delivery. The classic rear-wheel drive layout incorporating the clever Z multi-link axle out the back was developed on the Nuremberg circuit in Germany, and it shows.
The BMW 3 Series Coupe is, in its own right, a very good car, and it doesn't share a single body panel with its sister, the 3 Series Saloon version. And yet, despite the enormous expense and amount of engineering involved in achieving that, it's been designed to look, well, pretty much like the 3 Series Saloon, really.
BMW would point to the fact that the 3 Series Coupe has been the best-selling coupe on sale in Britain for many of the years that it's been available. That's an impressive statistic for a premium product.
So the BMW gets marked up for practicality and popularity, chassis dynamics and glorious engines. But it's marked down for looking a little too like a saloon for our panel's taste.
Smoother than a salesman who mistook his girlfriend's iMac for hair mousse, we move into our top 3.
Unlike BMW with the 3 Series Coupe, Mercedes decided to create a classic coupe on the platform from their C-Class saloon. And the result is our number 3, the CLK.
This coupe takes the best styling cues from the Mercedes past twin headlamps, the traditional grille, and throws in the latest styling trends to create a delightful machine to gaze upon, arguably the best-looking car in the current range.
Needless to say, the build quality is typically in the hewn-from-granite variety, as are the quality of the materials used generally throughout the car.
All this does carry a weight penalty though, and the CLK is not exactly the most nimble coupe around. Luxurious, yes. Sporting, no.
So who would be buying a car like this? Well, clearly somebody who's reasonably well heeled, because with all the extras on it, this vehicle is around £42,000, which is quite a lot of dosh, though you can get one for more like 30. I guess really it's kind of an E-Class with a smile on its face.
You buy a CLK and you describe yourself through your taste in cars.
You may have hankered after a Sierra Cosworth in your teens, a BMW in your 20s, but you're grown up now. You wish to show off your good taste.
To let the neighbours know that you will not be playing Marilyn Manson on full volume.
Who?
Congratulations! You are ready for a CLK.
Our number 2 is a bit of a cheat by the panel because it only has 2 seats. Yet the M Coupe is definitely a coupe. It says so in the name.
Imagine an MGB GT, or for the real enthusiast, a Triumph GT6, only on steroids and brought up to date, and you're close to what this car is all about.
Like a thin sheet on an old mattress, you feel every single bump, as you should in a proper sports car. Also, as you should in a proper sports car, it's got incredible brakes. From 60 miles an hour to a standstill comes in about 2.8 seconds, which is extremely impressive. Having said that, there perhaps isn't as much feel through the brakes as there could be.
This M Coupe is assured of future classic status. Some of you may scoff at it as a rich man's plaything, but who wouldn't kill to have one in their drive?
Before we check out our number 1, here's a rundown from 10 to 2.
At 10, Renault's bargain coupe, the Megane, cheap to run, cheap to buy.
At 9, the latest Toyota Celica.
Number 8 is the underrated Ford Puma, dynamically one of the best cars here.
7 is the newest kid on our top 10 block this week, the Vauxhall Astra Coupe.
Number 6, and arguably the best looking here, is Peugeot's 406 Coupe.
The C70 Coupe is a delightful shape which can go as well as it looks.
Number 4 is the BMW 3 Series Coupe with a straight-six engine to die for.
The CLK from Mercedes is a classic coupe in every sense of the word.
The BMW M Coupe is a compact coupe in the style of an MGB, but packing supercar performance. Yes, we cheated again. Most of the coupes in this top 10 fall within a price range which the average owner could realistically aspire to. Our number one, the Jaguar XK8, is desperately close to the dream car price bracket.
In our defence, the £50,000 plus price bracket this car falls into looks a positive bargain next to the Aston Martin DB7, the Porsche 911 or the Mercedes SLK, all cars you could pitch it against.
Do you think they bought it?
No, but keep going.
In fact, it is a Jaguar tradition to offer a glamorous car for comparatively reasonable money. Inside, you get the leather-lined cabin you'd expect.
Under the bonnet is a 4-litre V8 producing 300 brake horsepower, enough to push it onto 150 miles an hour, sufficient for cross-continental touring, methinks.
The styling is reminiscent of the classic E-Type, but with a little added aggression. The headlamps don't quite look the part though, which is about the only criticism we can think of in terms of looks. However, Jaguar had to distance their coupe from the equally classically styled Aston Martin DB7, also under the Ford corporate umbrella.
It may be by a long way the most expensive coupe in our top 10 this week, but our panel had no trouble voting it as our number one. High marks for prestige, glamour, performance and style mark the XK8 right up there, way beyond the rest.
Join us next week on the Top 10 Auto Show, where we choose our top 10 luxury cars.